Let me ask you a question. Are Christian conservatives or other Americans still allowed to hold politically incorrect views and at the same time keep their jobs? Well, the answer in our society very often is no.
That's right. 1 week ago today, twin brothers David and Jason Benham lost their show on HGTV after complaints about their biblical views on marriage and abortion. Now they're talking about the fallout and their faith, and for the first time, we're also hearing from their wives. John Jessup has the story.
Oh no, I set off the alarm.
A week after their show got cut, Christian brothers and business owners David and Jason Benham are still making headlines. But instead of defending their reputation, they're now using each interview to share their faith.
We feel as though God wants us to actually stand up, lift him up, lift up his standard, silence this bully, and lift up the banner of Jesus Christ in this situation. And so that's our goal right now.
They say that bully is an agenda from some militant gay groups and others on the left bearing down on America in what some describe as a silencing war on religious freedom. HGTV canceled the show last week, announcing its decision in a tweet after the website Right Wing Watch, funded by the liberal People for the American Way, published some of David's past comments on pro-life and pro-traditional marriage views.
Is it now becoming a cultural sin to believe in the Bible?
Where we are in terms of national sin, where we approve of what God disapproves of, when we do that, it will ultimately get to the point to where that sin will become an agenda that not only dominates and permeates, but it seeks to assassinate anyone that speaks against it. That's where we are as a nation.
Surprisingly, they lay the blame on the church.
We have more churches in America than we've ever had, ever. Just in our city alone in Charlotte, we have 1,300 churches. That's a ton of churches. And yet, we're aborting millions of baby boys and girls, little image bearers of God. We can't keep just having church and allow this to happen and think that the blessing of God is going to be on our nation.
While they've endured nasty criticism, they say they've also been encouraged by the support they received both online and in person. But their biggest supporters are the women who know them best, their wives who spoke exclusively to CBN News.
It's been an incredible week. So I want to ask you, how are you all holding up?
It's really neat to see how the Lord has prepared us and our kids during this time. There's been such grace over us, and a lot of people have reached out with such support and love.
What is it that you want people to know about David, and what is it that you want people to know about Jason?
I want people to know that he has a huge heart for the Lord and a huge heart for people. And when you get to know him, if you speak to him one-on-one and it's not just through media, you'll see that it is the real deal.
There's nobody that I respect more than Jason Benham, and I'm so thankful for the man of God that he is, and I'm so thankful for the husband and the father that he has become.
The wives and their husbands have been surprised at the support they've gotten from people across the political and ideological spectrum.
We can't even count how many letters, emails, Facebook, personal messages, even tweets that are coming to us from folks in the gay community, from Muslims, from so many different people that completely disagree with our beliefs, but that say, we stand with you.
The two are devoted to finishing the projects from their now canceled show and offering to take no commission on the houses they sell to help the cash-strapped families learning to flip their homes. The brothers have emphasized they don't hate or discriminate against gays or anyone else, and when it comes to the battle against religious freedom, they say they won't back down.
What we want to do is not just represent Christ in a loving way. What we want to do is win this battle. We want to fight it so that we can win it. And when the enemy shows up, stand up and don't back down.
John Jessup, CBN News, reporting in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Thanks, John. Those guys have a tremendous future ahead of them. They are extraordinary spokespeople for the point of view of many Christians, and I just appreciate their stand. I want to clarify something about who produces all this. The Home and Garden magazine is produced and published by the Hearst Corporation, but not the television show, which is produced by the Scripps Corporation. EW Scripps and the Scripps, and they're different, separate companies. So I've made a mistake in saying that Hearst did it all. They don't. They have the magazine, but the TV show is Scripps, and Scripps is the one making this decision, and it was a bad decision. Well, in other news, a terrible human tragedy has taken place in Turkey. More than 230 workers have been killed in a coal mine explosion, and the death toll could go higher. Charlene Aaron has that story from the CBN newsroom. Here's Charlene.
Pat, rescuers are in a race against time to reach more than 200 miners trapped underground in a coal mine in western Turkey. An explosion and fire killed more than 200 of the almost 800 people inside the mine. Dale Hurd has the story.
During the night, people cheered and applauded as some trapped workers emerged, their faces and hard hats covered in soot. But officials admitted there's little hope for those still trapped. This woman says, "I don't know what's happening. Wounded, missing, I haven't heard anything." She says her husband is in there. An explosion from a power distribution unit tore through the mine as workers were preparing for a shift change, which meant even more workers were inside the mine than usual. Officials said the fire was still burning in the mine, releasing deadly carbon monoxide.
Reserve air pumping operations continued, and as of now, we have lost 201 of our miners. We fear that this number will rise. I also said there were 80 wounded. 60 of those injured were the miners.
The death toll is expected to go much higher as rescue operations have been hindered because the mine had still not been cleared of dangerous gas. Some of the workers were more than a quarter mile below the surface. News reports said workers could not use elevators to escape because the explosion had cut off power. Some of the injured who emerged alive were whisked away on a stretcher to the cheers of onlookers. But for the families of hundreds more, hope that they will ever see their loved ones again is fading with each passing hour. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Here at home, conservatives and others are blasting the Obama administration after a report that Immigration and Customs Enforcement released 36,000 convicted criminal aliens last year. The immigrants were waiting for the final decisions in their deportation proceedings, so the ICE could have kept them in custody but didn't. The Center for Immigration Studies put out the information on the releases. The center's Jessica Vaughn called it shocking and said that Obama administration policies have often let political considerations override concerns about public safety. A major ruling in Europe in the battle over personal privacy and the internet. Google and other search engines are now facing some major limitations there after Europe's highest court ruled that people should have some say over what pops up when their name is Googled or searched for online. The European Union Court of Justice says Google must listen and sometimes comply when individuals ask the internet giant to remove links to newspaper articles or websites containing personal information. Google says people should take it up with the websites that posted the material.
The court decided that this person's privacy right outweighs Google's interest in making any information available. It sounds like it's just about Google, but it's really actually very threatening to much of the internet. The internet is a place where you find information.
The decision doesn't affect the U.S. or other countries outside Europe, but it will affect all search engines, including Yahoo and Microsoft's Bing. President Obama is meeting with the leader of Syria's opposition forces. The move comes as the Syrian government is gaining victories on the battlefield, and President Bashar al-Assad plans for victory in the election on June 3rd. The question now, is Assad now almost certain to win the civil war there? Heather Sells reports.
Just days ago, the battered city of Homs stood as a rebel stronghold. But after the government's 2-year blockade and bombing campaign, the rebels have given up. Today, thousands of Syrians are streaming back into town, and the rebels are gone. Their surrender seen as paving the way for Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. The U.S. has already denounced his June 3rd election, calling it phony. This week, it's meeting in Washington with what it calls the moderate opposition and its leader, Ahmad al-Jarba.
His coalition, the Syrian opposition coalition that he has built, is an inclusive and moderate institution committed to the Syrian people and to the protection of all people, all minorities, all rights within Syria.
Just last week, the U.S. recognized this opposition group as a diplomatic foreign mission and pledged $27 million to help the rebels oust Assad. But is it too little, too late? Off the coast of Cyprus, international ships wait to collect the last of Syria's chemical weapons before a June 30th deadline, after Syria already missed an April cutoff. Early Tuesday, a leading human rights group said it has strong evidence that Syria used chemical weapons on rebels just last month. More grim news for a country that's already lost 150,000 people in its conflict. Humanitarian groups say more than 3 million Syrians have no access to essential goods and services. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Pat, what's your take on this situation?
What my take is that the president, as usual, screwed up. You know, he's leading from behind. He let those rebels languish. He helped nobody. And early on, we could have had some people that we approved of, and then before long it became too dangerous. We could not support any of them because we weren't sure which was al-Qaeda and which wasn't. And then he just let the thing descend into a vicious civil war, 150,000 people dead, because of inactivity and fecklessness on the part of the leader of the most powerful nation on earth. And we're seeing this time and time and time again. And we're going to have to live in the future with the consequences of the failed foreign policy of the United States. Charlene?
A third potential case of Middle East respiratory syndrome known as MERS has been reported here in the U.S. It comes after the Center for Disease Control and Prevention said a man in Florida was diagnosed over the weekend. That man is now in isolation. Earlier this month, another MERS case was discovered in Indiana. The deadly respiratory virus was first found in people in the Middle East back in 2012. Since then, there have been over 500 cases, the majority in Saudi Arabia. The virus has killed nearly 140 people. The virus can be spread by people traveling around the world. Well, get enough sleep or it could be very bad for your health. A new survey from scientists in Britain and the U.S. found that people on average are sleeping 2 hours less than they did 60 years ago. That can upset the body clock, and the lack of sleep can also lead to serious health problems, including heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and possibly even a heart attack. And Pat, that sounds like a really good reason to get to bed on time.
Let's do it. Let's just chuck it and get on to bed and have a nap. I think naps are good. You know, my father lived really a long, long time. He had a 30-minute nap every day. I mean, he had a nap. And
I'm all for naps, but I'm a night owl, and I get a second wind around 10 o'clock at night, and I want to go out and take a walk, and, you know, at midnight, I'm just getting started.
Well, I mean, you've got a circadian clock that works that way. I mean, we have to work it with the clock. But, you know, if you don't sleep, your body builds up what's called, let's see, it's leptin when you do sleep, and ghrelin when you don't sleep.
Okay.
The ghrelin makes you hungry. The leptin makes you not want food, and you get slimmer with leptin and fatter with ghrelin. If you lose sleep, you'll have more ghrelin. You want to eat more. And so you're out walking at midnight, huh?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not often.
Not
It's
often.
a very safe neighborhood.
I said, well, okay, well, whatever. If you see some strange lady out there at 1 a.m., it's Wendy.
Gay couples in Idaho could get married as soon as Friday. A district judge ruled the state's ban on same-sex marriage is unconstitutional.
We won! we're ecstatic.
And it's time.
It is. It's been time. I'm just glad it's finally really time.
Yeah. 4 lesbian couples sued the state over the same-sex marriage ban voters approved in 2006. Governor Otter calls the decision, quote, disappointing and a small setback. Otter said he is committed to upholding the will of the people and will defend the ban. The ruling will take effect on Friday morning unless a higher court issues a stay. Well, public school students will be seeing healthier lunches in the cafeteria next year. Pasta and other grain products will have to be whole grain rich or more than half whole grain, including pizza crust, tortillas, and even grits. Some school officials say the menu changes are expensive and difficult to prepare. They're concerned because many of the healthier options like fruit, vegetables, and whole grain tortillas are already ending up in the trash. The government is also requiring lower sodium and healthier vending machine snacks. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.